What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Black and Diagnosed. I'm your host, Gerron Scott. I just want to welcome you into the garden. The world is heavy, and we are constantly out here performing, trying to prove we got it all together. But right now, you can drop the act, take off the mask. If you're navigating mental health, holding it down for someone who is, or just out here trying to find your footing, you belong in this room. Let's find the words, name what hurts, and get our rhythm back. Pull up a seat and let's talk. Welcome back to Black and Diagnosed. I'm Gerron Scott. Today we're here with Lyrica. Allow her to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lyrica Solomon. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, currently working out of a medical office, servicing and helping people solve their problems, individual and couples therapy.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do?
I am an experienced girly, so anything that is going to give me a new experience, whether that be going to some new event at like Piedmont Park or going and seeing karaoke or going line dancing or pickleball or whatever, just anything that I have not tried before, I'm willing to go and try to experience that. I'm more creative, so I do enjoy the arts and music and things like that, but I'm willing to try anything just for an experience.
Would you ever go skydiving?
Yes, it is on my bucket list to do. Have I actually jotted that down on my calendar? No, but I do want to do it.
Okay, I'm not saying skydiving it's in my top 10 best experiences ever. Yeah, some other experiences knocked it down, but at one point it was in my top 5, top 3. It's just so exhilarating. You're going up there, you're nervous. Then for me, the plane started taking off and all nerves left my body. Nothing but adrenaline my heart was racing, it was pumping, but I wasn't scared. I was just like, oh my God, I'm about to jump out of a plane. I'm strapped to someone and like, that's it. Like you have
Crazy thought.
the safety harnesses and the parachute that automatically opens after you descend to a certain height. But it's so scary. What about this? Would you go swimming with sharks?
Mm, If they were not like killer whales or something like that, if they were or not whales, sharks, if they're the sharks that are out for my blood or gonna kill me or try to kill me, then maybe.
See, I don't mess with water stuff. I gotta be honest, y'all. I can't swim. I'm going to take swimming lessons. So by the time you hear this podcast, hopefully I learn how to swim.
I hope
But,
so.
that's my goal. That is my summer side quest, is to learn how to swim.
Yeah, I love that
Summer
for you.
2026 is to learn how to swim. That's the goal. That's the summer
Well,
side quest. But let's see. So you said you like art. What is your favorite museum that you've been to? Have you been to the African American Museum in DC?
no. So that is something that I have gotten into, I guess, more recently with art. I have not been to any museums recently. I want to try some of the ones around Atlanta. I have not been to the one in DC yet.
The one in DC is absolutely amazing. All those museums in DC are amazing. The
Yeah.
Natural History Museum is probably my favorite museum in DC, the
hmm
Smithsonian one. Like, they're all free, they're all amazing. They do got some paid ones in DC that's still
hmm
really dope. I love all those museums. So you haven't been to the High Museum when they turn into a club. I haven't been either. But I want to know, if you've been to that museum when it turned into a club, is it actually really good, or is it just like one of those you go for a picture type experiences? Because,
hmm
sometimes I let it be like you go for a picture, not the experience.
Yeah.
Those are two very different things.
Are you talking about High Frequency Friday?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
That is actually on my list to do. I have not went. They actually had one this past Friday, but I did not go. I've heard great things about it though, but I have not personally experienced that yet. It is on my list to do. I sound like a lister,
Okay.
without doing all the things, but I promise I do things.
What about food? Are you a food experience person?
I do like to eat. I do like to try new restaurants. I at least try to go to one new restaurant a week. So yes, I will say that I'm a foodie.
I went to this Indonesian spot in Atlanta. I wish I remember what it was called, but it was the best food I've ever had in Atlanta. Atlanta has some great food spots and hidden gems, but man, this spot was so freaking good. Like I loved every second of it, and I forgot the name of it, so I can't even go back to it. Like, I
Oh
was on Google
no.
Maps trying to find it. Don't remember where it was. I just happened to randomly pass it, and we were like, "Let's go." So we went,
Wow. Mm.
and neither of us remember the name of it, and
Mm.
it's crazy because I want to go back so bad.
Yeah. Well, if you have that location thing on your Apple phone, if you have an iPhone, it tracks your location, so maybe you can look back at that date and see where you went.
I don't even remember the day. I don't remember anything. Just know that I went.
Okay.
So
Well, that just means that it was a very good time.
yeah, it was. It was a really great time. What is your favorite '90s show?
Ooh. Uh, hmm. I would probably say Sister Sister.
Ooh, that's a good one. Why?
I think that I just was able to relate to them, in the sense that, they were in school and managing boys and life and trying to figure out what they want to do with their careers and college and things like that. I don't know the age difference between me and those twins, but it felt like we were like living the same life at the same time. So it was just nice to see how they managed and dealt with like their life problems and things like that and boys and things. So I think that's why I enjoyed it. And it was like the first show besides like Mary Kate and Ashley, like the first black show with a set of twins. So
Wait, are you a twin?
no,
Oh,
I'm not a
okay.
twin.
I was about to say that'd be so dope.
I wish I had a twin.
I do not wish I had a twin. I'm the middle child, so I enjoy being the middle child. As a therapist, you just looked at me and gave me like, "Oh, wow, you're a middle child face."
I'm a middle
Dang.
child too. So that was like, oh, I get it.
Okay, good. You get it. My
Yes,
dad sent me this video, and I actually was deleting videos from my phone, so I seen it. He was like, "Oh, the middle child went missing," and the video was like, "Oh, okay, cool.
literally.
Are you bringing him back? No, okay. What do you want me to do about it? All right."
No one worries about the middle child.
No one ever worries about the middle child. No, they're like, "Is he fine? Yeah, okay. What are you gonna do with him?
Yeah.
Bringing him
So,
back, or are you keeping him? Make up your mind because we got
hmm
things to do. We got the other two children to worry about." And it
literally.
sucked because I have an older brother and younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
Great people. All right, but I love them to death. But when you have an older brother and a younger sister, you're kind of just like the other guy. Like you're there. My
Mm-hmm.
brother's like this all-star, super popular, and I was pretty popular as well, but everyone knew my brother. Like he
Yeah.
was just into sports, so cool. Same thing with my sister. She was so popular. We all pretty well known. But like in between those two was just hard to do.
Yeah.
But
Like, where do I fit? Like, you guys are doing so much. I'm like fighting for my life to like find some place where I can be recognized.
it's all good. It's all good. I think we all bring things to the pot. I say I kept everyone on their toes.
That's
Yeah.
usually what happens. Yeah.
So neurodivergence in itself is like a third partner in a relationship. Um, Especially when it's unknown. A lot of times people are wondering and questioning what's happening. Why aren't their relationships working? Why aren't they stable?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is there's something like ADHD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, all these things that are happening. How do you help address those in interrelationships?
Yeah. And that's a really good question. And I like the fact that you ask it in the way that you do because it's a lot of what I try to do initially with a couple is to separate the problem from the person or the couple. And that way the problem is easier to address. It's not something that's internal, it's something that's outside of us that we can address and we can tackle together. So I would start there, right? Separating the problem from the couple, and then mapping. the influence of the problem. How is the problem affecting wife? How is the problem affecting husband? When is it most prevalent? When is it least prevalent? And then gauging like which needs are being neglected, because I feel like that is the point that people seek out therapies because somebody is getting neglected. And so um, they come to therapy with needs that need to be addressed. And so that's something that I like to talk about in the therapy room is okay, who's being neglected, what's being neglected, and how can we address that amidst the diagnosis that is presenting itself in this relationship. So I think that's how I would go about addressing that and trying to decrease the influence of the diagnoses on the relationship.
So when you say decrease the influence, what do you mean?
So I think that sometimes when a diagnosis, like you said, is like unknown, um, or maybe even just like not addressed, like it gets really, really big, the influence of it. It's affecting you, it's affecting me, it's affecting the kids, it's showing up at work, it's just showing up everywhere. So the influence is gotten really, really big. It's influencing and affecting a lot of areas and aspects of our life. And so decreasing the influence is to shrink that. So it begins to affect less and less areas of our life. And then ultimately, like dissipate like altogether. Will you still be diagnosed? Yes, but the influence of said diagnoses will be less within the couple's relationship.
I dig it. I got to be honest here. I got diagnosed as a result of another failed relationship. For a long time, I fucking sucked at relationships, to say the least, to say the most. Right? I can't understate how bad I was at relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I would be madly in love with someone for months, weeks, days. I don't know forever how long.
Yeah.
Then I would find someone else to be madly in love with and just move from person to person. Then I would do them dirty. Then I would just slip into this dark, deep depression for weeks at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would bounce back like nothing happened onto the next person.
Mm-hmm.
And I got diagnosed because this woman I was dating was like, hey, that's not a normal pattern of behavior,
Yeah.
right? The things you're doing aren't normal. So, how often is it within a relationship do you see a diagnosis pop up as a result of counseling?
Hmm. Within couples work, um, I would say that the type of therapist that I am, I I'm not inclined to diagnose people, right? But that is just because I feel like I can work and do work and help people solve their problems without a label. But I do
Mm-hmm.
understand that sometimes it is more comforting for people to have that label so that they can understand, right? Get a better understanding of themselves. So I would say for me personally, I am not going to be like, oh, this is what you have, or like, this is what you're struggling with, because I don't really care for labels. I feel like sometimes it can be more limiting than freeing. And so, but if the patient or my client comes to me saying like, "Hey, I think I have this." Okay, let's explore that. I still won't be like, "Oh yeah, I agree. Let's explore that. Why do you think you have that?" Um, but if I was a person or a clinician who was diagnosis happy and like to diagnose everybody that came to my office, I would probably say every couple that came in front of me, I could probably give somebody anxiety to diagnoses or depression diagnoses. I can find something. Um, so I would say probably everybody that came through. If I really wanted to, I could probably diagnose everybody.
Yeah, and I do think sometimes people do get diagnoses happy. They're like, they must have something. They came to
Yeah.
see me. I have to give them something.
Mm,
Otherwise, they won't be happy.
yeah.
So that is interesting. So let's talk about Black women specifically.
Okay.
Depression shows up in them, but they're still expected to carry a heavy burden in relationships. They have to carry the burden of being the caregiver. But
Mm.
sometimes with depression, it's hard to even care for yourself. How do you navigate that dichotomy of being able to have to show up for everyone else while they can't show up for themselves?
Yeah. I mean, and of course, as cliche as it sounds, is that we're only good like how well we take care of ourselves. Um, Everybody knows that, right? But it's one thing to hear it and then to actually be able to like sit with it and like question yourself, well, like, okay, well, how come this is? And I think with situations like that, I always like to explore. I'm a therapist that works from like an attachment base. And so I'm exploring childhood things, what type of patterns in your childhood played out over and over and over again? And how are those things repeating themselves now? How can we go back and address those old patterns for you to reconnect with yourself emotionally, for you to somewhat heal that inner child to begin to be able to be a healthier adult? So I would want to explore patterns of like relationships with mom or instances where maybe my client might have been neglected or abused, or where my client might have had to take care of other people or put their own needs on the back burner, like, and how that stuff has sat with the patient or my client in adulthood and how that is continuing to show up and how we can begin to uh, correct some of those cycles that the patient's used to being in.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that childhood because a lot of times with clients with depression, anxiety, a lot of that stems from some childhood work.
Absolutely.
So how do you
Mhm.
unpack childhood trauma and things as a couple and as an individual when you bring them together?
Yeah. So if I'm working with a couple, I always like to start out with them first, get kind of like a better picture of, okay, what is the presenting problem? What is going on right now? Of course, in the back of my head, I'm already knowing because it's probably attached to some childhood stuff, but that is where I start for the first session, always together. Second and third session will be with husband alone, and then the third session will be with wife alone. So I'm getting background from husband, background from wife, bring them back together for the fourth session, and then begin to kind of explore and talk about what I discovered in those individual sessions for them to be able to then communicate their those needs, those patterns, those wants to each other. Again, I think a lot of times issues arise in relationships because needs are going unmet and we don't know how to communicate them healthily. And so we either shut down and withdraw or we become anxious and we overly pursue and then other person's withdrawn and it just creates this cycle. But um, getting them by themselves, exploring individually, and then getting them back together for them to be able to communicate those things to each other in a more productive way and to begin to meet each other's needs.
Okay. I do got a question
Hmm.
that's a sidebar.
Okay, perfect.
Um,
Let's go.
I love a good sidebar. Attachment styles, is that a real thing?
I don't know if I yes, it's a real thing. Let me just answer the question before I go off on my sidebar. I believe it is a real thing. There's a lot of research and science behind that supports attachment styles and how it's important to have those primary attachment figures, to have those healthy relationships with those primary attachment figures, and then for your needs to be met, for you to be comforted. The basis of like attachment work is, will you be there for me? Like when I reach out for you, are you there for me? And that trauma comes into play when people aren't there for you,
Mm.
when they don't meet your needs, when they don't comfort you, when they don't see you, they overlook you, and all those things. But yes, I do believe that attachment is a real thing.
I ask because I think the bipolar in me has been there for a long time,
Mhm.
but I think it became really real when my uncle passed. And
Mm,
up until that point, I think I had a secure attachment style. I was pretty confident in who I was. I was attached to my uncle. He was my grounding point in this world.
mm,
But once I lost him, I
mhm,
lost all my connection to the world. I just
mhm.
did not care what happened to me,
Yeah,
what I did, who I hurt, as long I just didn't give a fuck about anything or anyone
yeah.
anymore.
Mhm,
Um Oftentimes in relationships that was my motto, like I don't care who I hurt. And I understand that was a result of my mental health, but it was also a result of me being a person and I need to take accountability for that and I
mhm.
have.
Mm.
Um, but so my next question is, when you're working with clients and families that have mental health therapy, mental health disorders, what is some ways that you help bridge that gap from, yes, they have a mental health disorder, but they also have to take accountability for their actions?
Mm. Yeah, and that's always something that is, I don't want to say difficult, but I think most times I'm more inclined to just be straightforward. Like, hey, I get it. I understand that because of XYZ that happened in your childhood, that this makes you lash out. Or I understand because this happened, that this makes you angry and makes you punch walls, or whatever the case may be. Like, I express that understanding and that compassion and all the things. But also behind that is going to be, but I think, we have to learn how to take responsibility for what we do in those spaces as well. I get it. I completely understand. However, there are people around you who are also affected, by this. And if it's couples that I'm working with, then that's when I pull in the partner and I'm like, well, how does this feel for you when your partner lashes out or when they punch walls or when they do X, Y, and Z? Um, and sometimes even setting up like little enactments where your partner can speak to the other, being like, hey, I'm very, very sorry that I did this. I didn't recognize that this made you feel afraid. Um, that wasn't my intent or whatever, just walk them through how to model apologizing or taking accountability. Because if that's something that they're not used to, they might not know how to do it. So walking them through that during the session to do that kind of in real time.
That's interesting, modeling how to take accountability, because I felt like I had to learn how to apologize.
Yeah.
I think I knew how to apologize, but I had to really sit down with myself and say, it's deeper than just I'm saying I'm sorry. I had to reflect and think about what I've done, how my actions going to change,
Mm-hmm.
because a sorry without changing is just hollow.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask this. Let's talk about anxiety in relationships. How
Mm-hmm.
does that usually play out? I know anxiety is something that's more and more common,
Mm-hmm.
but in relationships it can be a source of stress
Mm-hmm.
for both people. So how does that usually play out?
I think the most common way I've seen, and of course, anxiety can manifest itself in many ways, but I think the most common way I've seen it manifest itself is in the area of control. I need
Mm.
to control everything. Um, and I always think that anxiety is one of those things that shows up with great intentions to protect you. Like, hey, you need to be on top of everything. You need to know everything. You need to plan ahead for all the things. And so it keeps you on your toes and preparing and planning for things that might never happen. Um, and so it shows up like that, and the need to control everything that is going on and need to know everything that's going on. But also, I think he can show up also with the attachment thing, right? I am anxiously attached. I need to know what you're doing at all times. I need to know where you're at. Why aren't you texting me every hour on the hour? Why didn't you let me know that you were taking a shower? So it just shows up in this way of like, don't leave me. Don't neglect me. Don't abandon me, or maybe in the sense of like every time we argue, I think we're going to break up because I'm so anxious about being rejected and being abandoned. And so it shows up in that way too.
Interesting. I haven't I've heard about a lot of that things, but I haven't heard the I want to be in control piece. Can you unpack that a little more?
Yeah. I actually have a couple of clients now that are experiencing that anxiety for control. So I'll actually just talk about my client without of course divulging any information, but had a life experience that um, basically the rug was snatched from underneath her. She was on the verge of being homeless in high school. with, I think her parents were living with her also at the time when she was living with her parents and she had a younger sibling. And she was tasked with finding them another place to stay while she was in high school, which I feel like was unfair to her. You were given an adult responsibility as a high schooler to find you guys another place to stay. From that, she developed a great fear of being put in the same situation again, being unstable, being homeless. And so from that, she has this pervasive anxiety around always feeling like she has to be prepared. I have to think about every possible scenario that could possibly put me in a position where I'd be unstable again, and I have to plan for those. I have to be in control of what's going on so that I'm not in control later. Um, so just anxiety around, we have to make sure that we don't end up in the same situation again. So we have to control everything now. Um, so yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And that's pretty fucked up that she was responsible, but it
Yeah.
seems a lot of times in a lot of film situations that people find themselves in situations where they shouldn't be in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I work with a lot of students who have to deal with responsibilities like that. They tell me, Gerron, like, hey, this is what I have to deal with at home, especially at the institution I was at before, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So the students I work with now are a little more privileged, but even still now, they say, you know, I'm dealing with this at home and this situation, I'm not going to give any personal information, but I have a lot of students who are dealing with similar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some ways when someone's dating, they can divulge some of this, like, neurodivergence or information about the mental health disorder in a way that's comfortable for both them and their partner?
I think if we're talking like during the dating process, like you guys aren't exclusive, then I like to take the approach of um, like spot checking. Um, like, because not everybody is to be trusted, and not everybody is graced to sit with, deal with, support you in the diagnoses that you may have. And the thing that comes to mind is there's like this wall stain cleaner, and on the instructions it says to check a spot before you use it on like a bigger like surface area in a space that you can't see it. So if you spot clean that's on your wall and it like destroys your wall, it won't be in a place where it can be visible. Take the same approach with divulging any information to anybody that I'm dating. I'm going to test out something small with you to see how you respond. So and something that's not super important so that if I tell you it's not going to send me in a spiral or it's not going to send me in a frenzy, right? But something small enough to see how you're going to respond and then to check your response. And if you respond well, okay, cool. Then maybe I can trust you with a little bit more information. But then if you respond in a way that is not something that I like or maybe isn't conducive to my growth or like supportive of me, then maybe I would be less inclined to open up in the future. But I don't think everybody is to be trusted. Um, that is what I would say as far as how to, I guess, gauge how to tell, when to tell, those types of things.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think everyone should be trusted.
Mm-mm.
I like to give people a chance to earn that trust, and it's hard to say. I don't earn trust is a weird phrase for me because it's one of those things where, like, earn respect. I feel like respect doesn't need to be earned. It's
Yeah.
just one of those things where respect is one of those things that should just exist.
Well,
But when it comes to trust, I think what a lot of people don't understand for people with neurodivergence is it's a big thing. I know
uh-huh.
people are more open about it now more than ever, and I'm such an advocate and willing to share my story. But that's because if you Google me, my dissertation pops up and it says bipolar disorder. So I'm
Uh-huh.
not afraid to share my story
Yeah.
because I'm attached to it. It's like the third or fourth thing when you Google my name, it pops up. Maybe some other stuff
Uh-huh.
now. Hopefully, some more stuff now.
Uh-huh.
But It's very common. It's my name's attached to it.
Yeah,
But
for sure. And I think also an important piece with beginning to share things, I would say also, like, if you're still like in the thick of working through maybe just recently diagnosed with something, like that is a very, very vulnerable space. That would be when I would err against opening up and talking about that because you're very sensitive in those spaces. Like this is new information, right? You're still trying to figure out what it means for you, how it's affecting you, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. So you don't want to allow a lot of people into that space to be able to speak to something that you don't even completely know what it means yet. So to protect it until you have gotten to a space where you accept that thing about yourself,
mhm.
right? Um, and once you accept it, it doesn't matter who accepts it or rejects it, right? Because you're so confident in this is me, this is what I come with, this is how this affects me, and either you can take it or you can leave it type thing, right? We're not looking or we're not seeking for someone else to approve or deny because we've already approved ourselves.
Yeah, it took me about a year to publicly disclose my diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I felt like it was important for me to share with the people closest to me first.
Yeah.
You know, it sucks, but I sought their approval, right? I wanted to see
Mm-hmm.
the spot check. I wanted to
Yeah.
see how I wanted to see how they would react first. When they reacted with all love, I was like, well, if the people I care about don't care, well, don't care is the wrong word. Is the people who I love, who I want to care about me say, I still love you. We
Mm-hmm.
support you. So I was like, well, it really doesn't matter what everyone else has to say. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I realized that I was in position to share my story because of the power that I had and the platform that I had. I had a voice that people listened to. So
Yeah.
why not share my story?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's interesting there. So let's talk about Black men and vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, Black men, we just don't like being vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially when it comes to dating. We don't want to be looked at as weak, soft, all these things that for some people and some people when they're dating are just real, whether no matter their sexual orientation, a lot of Black men don't want to be seen as weak, soft, all these things. So,
Mm-hmm.
how does one, as a Black man, break down some of those stereotypes, generalizations around mental health?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think safety is important. Um, Again, because not everybody is to be trusted. Not everybody is going to sit with and receive well what they have to share. Um, and I know that not everybody is as progressive as my therapy mind, right? Some women, some men even will clown other Black men for being emotional or for being softer or to, show those other sides of self. So I think that is a huge barrier when it comes to men wanting to be more open, is how they are received. And I would just encourage any man to, find those safe spaces, to be able to do that. Um, as far as breaking down barriers, to be more comfortable with, sharing experiences, I always recommend therapy. I think it's super helpful. You don't have to go in there and be boohoo crying, but it just gives you a space to learn how to be more comfortable with even just talking about your experiences. Um, and connecting back with your emotional experience. I work with a lot of clients now because they are so able to intellectualize and logic a lot of things that have happened in their life, and they are so emotionally disconnected from their experience that a lot of the time in the session we're spending trying to reconnect them emotionally with their experience. And I feel like that's what a lot of men experience, is that you just learn to shut off your emotions because either you've been told not to show them, or like you've shown them and you've been negatively responded to. And so what I do in the room with it, we're going to just rework that. We're going to give you a safe space to learn how to reconnect with yourself emotionally because you have not been awarded the opportunity to do that.
That's interesting. You made a good point there where there's a lot of people who just aren't accepting of men who to express their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that I used to look for in a partner was someone who was accepting of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not the most masculine guy. I like sports. I like masculine things, but
Uh,
I also like making sure my skin's moisturized. And I like watching This Is Us. Shout out to This Is Us.
that doesn't mean
I
that you're
like.
not masculine. I think that means that you're human.
I think so as well, but to some people, that's not looked at as traditionally masculine. I think
Yeah.
those are masculine things. I don't this I don't believe this is not the purpose of this podcast, but I don't
Right.
necessarily believe in traditional masculine and
Like
femininity.
gender roles and stuff.
I don't believe
Yeah.
in none of that. That's just who I
Mm-hmm.
am. I like to cook.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaning is not my strong suit, but I'm a willing cleaner. Um, some people would tell you I'm not good at cleaning, but I am a willing cleaner. Um, but I don't believe in traditional gender roles. I think
Yeah.
you do what you're good at and you like what you like. That's
Mm-hmm.
just the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's I do get a lot of men who tell me, they say, Gerron, I can't be public with my struggle
Mm-hmm.
because I have to be strong. I have this strong persona about me that if I have chinks in my armor, I'm afraid that I'm afraid that people are going to look at me differently. And really, it saddens me
Mm-hmm.
when I hear black men tell me that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, if you can tell me this in confidence, and you can probably tell the ones who love you in confidence,
Mm-hmm.
what does it matter what the people who really don't know you think?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
interesting. On the flip side, you have women who, like we talked about earlier, have to be these strong, hyper independent, can't really depend on anybody else besides
Mm-hmm.
themselves, who don't even have the time to be depressed, have anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
have other mental health disorders, let alone like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, PTSD, OCD, all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
How does a black woman how do they experience that? Just seriously, how do they allow themselves to experience that while trying to date?
Mhm. Like to experience like resting or like experiencing like what can you rephrase the question?
Yeah, like when trying to date, how can they explain to their partner, like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing, without fear of judgment,
Mm-hmm.
without fear of being pushed away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, I'm always an advocate for that self work. I think when it comes to that piece that you were referring to about overworking, not resting, feeling like they have to be superwoman, like it takes a lot of effort and intentionality for the Black woman to slow down because not all of us, but all that they've been pushed is keep moving, keep going, have it all together, don't cry, don't stay down long. You got to do like it's just this narrative that gets pushed. And I think it works well with someone who receives it well. Um, you could divulge this information to anybody, but it's not going to be impressionable or it's not going to mean much if your partner does not make space for you to to show that side or to disclose those things. So I think you'll need a partner who is graced to deal with those things.
Nice. I think that I love the word grace. I think we
Mm,
do not give people enough grace. I
yeah.
think we love to tell people give us more grace, but I don't think we ever extend enough grace to other people. I think the
Mm,
world will be a lot
mm,
better if we gave more grace.
yeah.
Um, if we all gave grace, though, not just us giving it to one person, that person not giving it back. It has to be reciprocated.
Hmm.
So, what are some ways that couples, families could team up against symptoms of neurodivergence?
Um, I think going back to what I was talking about earlier with um separating the problem. If the problem was a person, what would this problem say? What would this problem be doing? What would this problem be thinking? So giving this problem or this diagnosis a person, like a real life person and personality and things like that. And then that way, each person in the family or the couple or whatever unit I'm seeing can begin to think, okay, well, how does this affect me? And how do I then want to change how I'm interacting with it? What I also did not add earlier was that the flip side of mapping the influence of the problem is mapping our influence on the problem. Because I think a lot of times we experience or we're diagnosed with these things, and all that we can see is how this problem is affecting us. And I would begin to try to get the client to see, like, you have influence as well. You have influence over this diagnosis or with this diagnosis. It's not just it controlling you, but you have sway, you have influence, and you have power to influence it back. And then that is where I would empower them to begin to do their work. How do you want to influence your diagnosis or whatever problem it is that they're dealing with?
I love that because the way I chose to influence my diagnoses was understanding it and
Hmm.
saying, if this is my symptoms, this is how they present, and
Hmm.
what can I do about them? And I was take medication. I wish
Hmm.
there was just like a one-time shot, like there's some for some stuff, take once a year and you just be
Hmm.
good. But
Yeah.
it's daily medication. That's fine. I
Hmm.
take it every day when I wake up. Like my
Yeah.
Lamictal extended release and my Rexulti. I
Hmm.
take it every day.
Yeah, and you could have
Um,
chose to like fight it, right? But you chose to understand. I think it probably would have sent you down a completely different path if you chose to fight it. If that was your influence over your problem, I think it probably would have went a lot differently.
Definitely, I think for a lot of people who choose to fight it, they're like, hey, I'm stronger than this, I'm bigger than this problem, right? I can control it, you know.
Hmm.
I just have to focus on controlling the problem. So let me ask along those lines, what happens when people who say things like that, I can just control my anxiety, I can control my depression, I can
Hmm.
control whatever I'm experiencing without seeking extra help?
Hmm.
What usually happens?
Yeah. I usually, well, one, because I don't like that language. Because I don't think emotions, anxiety, depression, whatever, are meant to be controlled. So that is my red flags are going up automatically, right? Emotions aren't meant to be controlled, they are meant to be felt. And it is in trying to control them that we cause more issues. And so um I'm not one to push a certain, I guess, treatment option. I am a firm believer that things happen naturally. And if things happen in a way that you come back eventually and you're just like, you know what, I think I might take that medication now. Things got really bad over this week. I realized that I can't control it or whatever the case may be. And so they seek out, further assistance. But I think sometimes not letting my client fail, but just letting life for them to see, okay, cool, like I can't do this by myself. Like I might need some extra assistance. If that's the way that you want to go about doing that, okay, cool. But I'm not going to be like, no, you need medication. No. One of the smartest things that therapists can do is to not get in a power struggle with a client. If you think that you don't
Mm.
need medication, you don't think you need extra help, okay, let's rock it out. Let's do it the traditional way. Let's just talk. Let's see how far we get.
I dig that. The power struggle one. I love that. I love that. So I'll tell you a quick story because it leads to my question.
Okay.
I remember one time, and I was just like, I'm never going to do this again. One time, my son was at the table. He did not finish his food. I
Mhm.
said, you are not getting up. But you know what this kid did?
What did he do?
He fell asleep at the table.
Of course he did.
And I was just like, oh, I am never going to ask my son to finish his food again. And to my credit, I had never. And that was my first time never, because I was like, I'm going to gentle parent. you know, all these things. And that was my first and only time never being a gentle parent.
And
And
it came to bite you in the butt.
yeah, because I'm just like, this man really fell asleep at the table. I could not believe he fell asleep at the table.
Yeah.
I like to this day, I'm just like, how did he? How
You thought
this
that it was
man?
gonna go this way. No, I got another way to get out of this. I'll sleep.
Yeah, he was just like, all right, you think I'm going to finish this food? What you don't know is I can fall asleep anywhere at any time, and I'm going to show you what I can do.
Yeah. I think power struggles or engaging in power struggles across any area of life is not highly recommended.
Exactly.
I will not play that
So,
game ever.
but gentle parenting's a new term. I was not gentle
Mm-hmm.
parented at all, and I have the scars physically and emotionally to prove it.
Yeah.
Um, but we're also managing things like ADHD, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and so on,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a lot of internal noise. There's a lot going on inside of us.
Yeah.
So, how do we explain our mental health struggles to our children while making sure that they're not going through the same things that we're going through, or they're not experiencing some of the same experiences that we have, knowing that some of this stuff is also hereditary, that at
Mm-hmm.
certain age markers, they may start to experience some of the things that we experienced mentally.
Yeah.
And
So, I am a firm believer in just being open, right? Um, Telling them, I think, having age appropriate conversations about what it is that you're dealing with. Um, I think it's when we don't talk about or show our kids our humanity where it can potentially cause more damage in the long run. One of my clients now, he was like, I grew up thinking that my dad was a superhero. He was like, he was just always doing everything. Everything was always good. He, like, never showed any signs of weakness. And then he saw his dad in the hospital connected to tubes and in ICU and saw his dad have like two seizures. It was like devastated because his dad had never shown his humanity to him. And, now he's currently dealing with his own health issues and is struggling to know how to deal with it because he's never seen anybody process something that was difficult. There was no blueprint that was given to him about how to deal with life struggles. And so he's struggling with, how do I deal with this? Like, I've never seen my parents like struggle. Like, they just always had it together. So I'm an advocate for children being able to see parents struggle and or cope with things, but also to seek help. So that, okay, well, mommy did this when she had this going on, and now I feel like I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to do the same thing that she did. So it just sets a blueprint for the children to be able to, I guess, know how to handle life better.
yeah, I think that's key. I think showing them and telling them that, hey, like, this is real, these things happen is important. Just to be perfectly frank, I have not shared my diagnosis with my son. I'm sure if he
Yeah.
Googles my name like he has in the past, it'll pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And I do plan, as he's getting older and mental health stuff is hereditary, specifically bipolar disorder, to
Mm-hmm.
have these conversations with him. I hope he doesn't have it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it is a condition that me and his mom have talked about.
Yeah.
So that's just one of those things.
And I think that's good that you plan to do that. How old is your son, if you don't mind me asking?
He is 14.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'd be surprised how children end up responding to those types of things. Very, very resilient, very caring, very intuitive. Sometimes they just want answers. Like he's probably already noticed. He probably hasn't said anything. And when you start to tell him about it, you're like, "What? I did notice this one time that you did this or that you said that." He'll probably just start connecting dots. They're very, very observant. When you don't think they notice, they don't.
Yeah, definitely. What do you say when people are experiencing mental health crisis as a married couple? What are
Mhm.
some ways the spouse can be more supportive? Because it's one thing when you're dating, it's a little easier to to leave that relationship. But when you're married, it's another level of commitment. So
Mhm.
how do you help couples manage, or married couples manage that?
Yeah, I agree. I think um it is different because there is this commitment, there is this covenant, there is this long-term thing in place. And I guess I would gauge how much, I want to say damage, I don't like to call it that, that they've experienced at the hand of said diagnoses. How long has it been going on? Like, what am I working with here? Um, to see where the couple is currently. Are you at a place where you are seeking divorce? Are you at a place of like, we're here because if this doesn't go well, we're going to get a divorce? Are you here because we want to stay together? We want to work this out. We love each other. Like, where are you in your relationship? And I think that uh, affects maybe how I would address what's going on. But I think initially I would want to gauge, or so I think a lot of times we lack understanding, which then makes us a little less empathetic. So I would try to invoke empathy from the partner who's probably not diagnosed, and invoking that empathy by getting very, very deep and in depth with the diagnoses that this person is experiencing, history, trauma, all the things. So just trying to get them to empathize a little more. I'll give a story and then I'll wrap it up and be quiet. But my bishop gave this scenario of these people on this train. And there was the man who was on the train with his 4 kids, and his 4 kids were just out of whack. I mean, jumping around everywhere, loud, rambunctious kids. And the people on the train were like, why is this man not like disciplining his kids? Why won't he tell them to sit down? Why won't he tell them to be quiet? And it is the lack of knowledge in this situation that I think keeps them from being able to empathize with this man. This man is just leaving the hospital from finding out that his wife just died. And he is just sitting there in anguish and disbelief and sadness because he just lost his partner. And it is that information that then like turns the light on for us to be able to empathize with him. Otherwise, we're judging him, right? And I think that's a lot of times that what happens with couples is because I lack understanding, because I lack knowledge, I am not able to empathize with you. And it's not until that empathy light is turned on that the real work begins. And so I would just try to get that turned on.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I dig it. What is one experience that you're looking forward to in the next 2 months?
What is this? April? My brother is graduating from the University of West Georgia next month. So I look
Go
forward to
Wolves.
go West, go Wolves. So that's something I look forward to. So I'm excited. I'm very proud of him.
Good, good. That's really dope.
Yeah,
That's dope.
thank you. Um,
Yeah. So now I'm going to turn it over to you to ask me any questions that you want.
yeah. So before we started, we were chatting up or whatever, and my question was, why did you start this podcast? Like I know like 10% of the answer, but I would like to hear it from you anyways.
I just want to give a voice to the people, right? I want to
Yeah.
use my platform to make sure that others can share their voice. I
Mhm.
want people to be heard. I think there's a lot of people, especially Black people, who have a lot to say, who can offer a lot to the world. And I think I have the opportunity to help people express that.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome. And in a way, you are, breaking cultural and societal norms of giving Black people a voice, whereas they had not before. And so I think that's really awesome. And I appreciate what you're doing um, for our people.
Well, thank you, Lyrica. We greatly appreciate you being on the podcast. And this has been another episode of Black and Diagnosed. Thank you for tending to the garden with me today. Seriously, just remember, stability isn't a straight line, it's a rhythm. Just because the music slows down for a second, it doesn't mean the song is over. Give yourself some radical grace this week. If this conversation brought a little bit of light into your space, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. share this with someone who needs it, and come lock in with us on Instagram at Black and Diagnosed. I'm always looking to build connections, so if you want to jump on a guest spot, I have a collaboration in mind, hit my email at info@gerronscott.com. Let's build. Until next time, take care of yourselves.